From the day that Wildcat Silver came into town and said that they were going to mine these mountains, it changed our lives. And they're so confident they're going to do that, everybody's looking toward the future as being fairly grim in the Patagonia Mountains.
A wonderful place to live. It's like it's 50 years ago. You think of the 4th of July tomorrow and the big parade and all that stuff. And I mean, it's great.
You get a real sense of family from all the community members because it's such a small community. It's just really close-knit, and it's a really supportive place.
People are really friendly here, really welcoming to new people that move into town. When someone gets sick or hurt and needs help, everybody will come to help. And it doesn't really matter how well you know someone. It's just sort of the nature of this community to pull together to help each other.
I love rush hour in Patagonia. You know, I'm pulling out onto the highway at 5 and 6 o'clock at night, and I might have to wait for one car. There's no traffic to speak of. It's so wonderful.
My family comes from Patagonia and the surrounding valleys, 4 generations on both sides. Mostly my family doesn't want to see their mountains torn apart. I feel that the surrounding area is sacred ground.
From my perspective as a biologist and ecologist, what's unique is that it's right at the intersection of 4 major biogeographic regions, and it makes it biologically the richest, most diverse place in the United States. I spent a large part of my scientific career studying grassland sparrows. There are more sparrows in this region than anywhere else in the world. There are 4 or 5 species which are quite rare and are listed as state endangered and threatened species. This is the most diverse bee community known in the world. One of my colleagues, who's a bee expert, has found over 600 species of native bees in this one small area, and that's more than anywhere else of a comparable size in the world.
It's a riparian area. Riparian areas are hard to come by. Hardshell Creek is a real nice example of large sycamore trees, big oak trees, desert willows, lots of different plant community there.
For my business, half or more come from Arizona. And they come down here to get away for the weekend. They come down here to visit the wineries. They come down here to bird, to hike, to bike. And the rest of the business are people from all over the United States. A lot of birders from all over the world come because this is an international birding destination.
We have started a hummingbird conservation organization called the Hummingbird Monitoring Network. It's a conservation program that attacks conservation in 4 ways. One is the monitoring, through sponsoring research, through education, and through restoration work. One that Patagonia is famous for that's a rare bird is the violet-crowned. It's got an immaculate white breast and a violet crown, and it's just an amazing bird to see. Magnificent and blue-throated. Those are 2 other Mexican species that are common here, but if you go any farther north, they're very uncommon or don't exist.
When you come up the road, you see those little black cattle. That's my cattle. We run a little bunch of cattle. I don't know how long that'll last or what. And it's tougher right now than I've ever seen it. When they're trying to start this mine right up the road here, about 1.5 miles, and a few months ago, one of their workers was running a grinder, grinding something, and sparks flew off and set that fire, which burned about 400 acres up there.
5 hours of fuel.
But then yesterday, this little wash that you cross turning in here, ran pretty big, but it was the most dirtiest, nastiest, filthiest looking water you ever seen, just black, and so I'm sure it's washing off the burning of that fire or whatever, and I don't know how many years it'll take to clean that up, but all the cattle over the entire ranch have to come to these corrals here to be worked and shipped or doctored or whatever you're doing to them. And if they start this mine up here, I won't have no way to get my cattle to these corrals because those big 50-ton trucks are going to be running however many they claim an hour, 24 hours a day. It's going to really ruin things, I think. The mine will deplete all the water, and what they don't, they'll pollute.
I was a water treatment consultant for 20 years to every major mining operation in Arizona, New Mexico, and West Texas. This mine, the Hardshell Mine, is saying that they are going to use 350,000 and 700,000 gallons of water per day. And they draw that water out of the Hardshell Creek. That's the entire flow of Hardshell Creek. So first of all, every well along the Hardshell Creek Road will go dry. The trees in the Nature Conservancy are going to die, the birds are going to leave, and the ecotourism for which Patagonia is known will cease to exist. We will become a mining town.
Considering the terrible, terrible impact on water, I don't think there should be mines in desert places.
Being in the desert, water is the main thing that draws animals and whatnot. Everything has to have water, and it has to be surface water. You know, obviously, critters can't go out and dig their own wells.
I believe the blasting would drive them away. I've never seen an animal that's appreciated a loud noise yet.
One of the things we love most about the sounds are the wind. The thought of that being replaced with blasting is, it's unthinkable to me.
It's meant to be a 24-hour operation, so that means bright lights and noise 24 hours a day, how that's going to affect the breeding populations of birds. In addition to the birds, there's a couple of endangered bats in the area, and I think the nighttime activities could have an impact on them.
In terms of diversity of plants and animals, this is as good as it gets, and couldn't be a worse place to put a mine. And it's right on the road out the San Rafael Valley, one of the most gorgeous places scenery-wise in the U.S.
A typical mine, they dig a hole in the ground. They call it open pit mining. And then they process that ore by grinding it up, mixing it with water, and then float off the minerals that they're looking for and have the rest of the minerals, and it goes out as tailings, and it goes to tailings ponds. Wherever you dig the hole, all of a sudden you've upset the water balance. Instead of water percolating out of the sky and through clean underground deposits, you've opened it up and you've exposed what are called sulfide deposits, which convert any water that goes into the mine into sulfuric acid, and this becomes a highly toxic, and it dissolves arsenic and lead and cadmium and copper and all of these other minerals. No water can leave the plant because it's so highly contaminated that it can only be evaporated in the tailings ponds. The tailings are supposed to be covered. They notoriously dry out in places and blow all over the countryside, blowing all of these very, very small microscopic particles which get caught in people's lungs and can cause lung cancer. People downwind breathe are the cadmium, the lead, and the copper, and the arsenic right into their bodies where it's leached.
They're saying, I think it's like 15 to 18 years. If it's anything like the miners who were here before, they walk off and leave it. They declare bankruptcy or whatever way they can get out of it, and they walk off and leave it, and there's a hole in the ground.
The key is you've got to have an operating mine, because this contaminated water has to go somewhere. You can't just put interceptor wells and pump it. Where are you going to pump it to? Back into the San Rafael Valley and destroy the grasslands there? I mean, contaminated water is contaminated water. Again, you just have to evaporate all of it. It just becomes one ecological disaster after another, all for what, 50 jobs for the town of Patagonia? Maybe a $250,000 net income to the town of Patagonia per year, and a loss of millions upon millions of dollars per year in ecotourism. Plus the destruction of one of the greatest riparian habitats in all of the western United States, not just Arizona.
The truth is we don't have much teeth in the laws that protect species and natural areas to prevent things from happening and make sure we make the right decisions about where we do and don't mine. So much of it goes back to the mining law of 1872, which was all designed just to promote development of the West. Well, I don't know if folks in DC have noticed or not, but the West is pretty well developed now, and we don't necessarily need to have these huge incentives where mining companies can come in pretty much anywhere they want for pennies, take over large parts of federal land and use it to pile up their waste deposits and overprime habitat of many organisms.
The laws that govern mining are very loose, and they were originally created in 1872 to promote mining, but on a very small scale for the individual. And now that multinational companies are involved in this, they will play the laws to the hilt and use those laws to their advantage. And if they don't have to protect the land around them, they won't. In fact, that was even mentioned that they're going to work within the laws, as simple as that.
When it comes down to the law of the land, which is the 1872 mining law, which has been interpreted to mean that mining is the highest use of Forest Service land and it cannot be stopped. This is not on private property, this is on public Forest Service land. And so essentially our government is telling us we have no choice. This Canadian mining company can come in, make their mine, destroy whatever they want, destroy your business, destroy your life.
But there's vested interests in Congress and in the Senate who are from mining states and who are being supported financially through campaign contributions by mining companies. So consequently, in an ongoing effort to turn the United States into a third world country, we now have companies that aren't even U.S. companies who are coming onto our public lands and using that arcane law, bending the Forest Service to their will.
Yeah, it's really frustrating when it's a Canadian company that will be taking it out, and most likely the ore will go to China.
The mine does not pay any royalties, so they don't give a certain percentage of what they make to anybody, not to the town, to the state.
And now it's so outdated that if you own a piece of private property and you don't own your mineral rights underneath it, somebody else can file for it and actually have a mine under your property, and which has happened.
There needs to be a decision about, is this the best use of the land? And the Forest Service right now doesn't feel that they have the ability to make that decision. Is it good for the community, people that are around here? Because we count, our lives count, our businesses count, and also conserving our mineral resources too. You know, who's going to get them? You know, making sure they're there in the future. In 100 years, what are we going to have for minerals? I don't know.
I'm not against mining, and I think we have to have sources for copper and for other metals that we need. But I do think that we lack a rational process for deciding where we should do it and not do it. And we lack a process where local residents can have some say in whether or not their way of life in their communities are changed drastically. And who is it that should be involved in those decisions, and it shouldn't just be the investment company that's trying to develop the mine.
I will never forget the first time I saw the Clifton Renzi mine. We had just spent about 5 days in the White Mountains, and the forest there is so beautiful. And we were on our way home. Very suddenly, it all changed. The sky opened up, the trees were gone, and in front of me was this barren landscape that no longer looked like the planet Earth. It looked like another planet. It was strange colors, bizarre shapes, and it just kept going. It did stretch for miles. And to know that they carved it out of such a beautiful and biodiverse area, it felt criminal. It felt like a total violation.
Morency's open pit, they're all the same. That hundreds and hundreds, thousands of acres of tailings pile, dead earth. Nothing can grow in it. And that's what will happen here too.
All you have to do is go up to Clifton, Morency, see what mining towns look like after the mines get done with them.
There's nothing there anymore except mines. It's just huge mines. You think that they're going to stick one mine back in the mountains in Patagonia? That's not so. There are lots of mining claims back there. And it's not going to be just one mine. And even just one mine is a foothold. It's going to be all sorts of mines. And it's going to take this place to a whole different world.
Ranching deal right here on my part, it'll just about be over with, I think, because they got the money, they got all the politics, they got everything, and you can't outdo them. And I don't know, I think I've seen the best of it.
In response to all this mining activity, we formed a watchdog organization, the Patagonia Area Resource Alliance, and here's what you can do to help. You can write your representatives and express your concerns. You can donate your time and your expertise. Go to our website and check out our action list. We gratefully accept donations. We can make a difference.